For the first time since 1999, the Dallas Stars are going to the Stanley Cup Final. Back in the day where they wore these jerseys. Captain Darian Hatcher leading the way. And it's been a very interesting run for the Stars over the past few years. So now, obviously at this stage, as you can tell by the screen, we don't yet know who they're going to play. But what I want to talk about in this video is, the Stars' journey up to this point. We're also going to talk about the Vegas Golden Knights in a little bit, and what I think the Stars have to do if they are going to beat either the Islanders or the Tampa Bay Lightning. As you can tell, most likely it's going to be the Lightning, but hey, you never quite know. So, first and foremost with the Stars, again, third seed, one of the top four teams to automatically make it in. They survive a series against Calgary where it looked like the Flames could give them a little bit of trouble. When you talk about teams doing well in the playoffs, you think, okay, can the bottom six really kind of step up and deliver? And then all of a sudden, Sam Bennett and Milan Lucic had it going a little bit for the Flames. But ultimately, they kind of burned out, didn't they? I'm sorry, that was horrible. And obviously right now, you're talking about an offseason where the Flames could have a little bit of turmoil going on because what's the future of Johnny Gaudreau? What is that team going to do? It's obvious that something needs to change. Similar to this Dallas Stars team where you think, like, okay, you have the pieces in place, but they just can't quite make it. Dallas is at that point right now. And the question at the time right now is, what is the right decision? Is this the team where you just need to tinker a couple little things and bam, they're there, similar to Dallas? Or is it, say, a Montreal situation from a few years ago where the GM looks and says, I just don't believe it's that situation, and they blow it up and retool? We'll see. And you could argue that Marc Bergevin made the right choice at that right time, and the Dallas Stars made the right choice by sticking with it. So, they get past Calgary, they survive Colorado, and I have to say for Stars fans, you need to win this one. Because at the end of the day, does anybody believe you're a better team than Colorado? No. Because right now, everyone looks at that series and says Colorado had it if the entire team didn't fall apart. So many injuries for the Avs, including their top two goaltenders. You lose Landeskog as well, at least he's not 100%. So many injuries to the Avs, but still, credit to the Stars, you got to get the job done, and they did. So I don't take that away from them personally, but certainly the road to get there was a tiny bit easier because of the injuries to that Avs team. And then you get to Vegas, who, everybody expected Vegas to be the team that made it out of the West. Now, the best team doesn't often make it. It's just how the playoffs work. But everyone expected Vegas to make it, yet Dallas wins in just 5 games. And for Vegas, it wasn't necessarily a matter of injuries. They didn't have a single injury registered on that team. It's just you go back and you look at these games, and it was just a matter of efficiency for the Stars. 25 shots each and a 1-0 victory in game 1. You go to game 2, 8-shot differential. They lose that one 3-0 though. Their only loss of the series. And then you go to game 3, 1-goal win despite being outshot 40-23. You go to game 4, outshot 33-20. They win a 1-goal game. And now tonight, I believe they are 10-1. 10-1, if I'm not mistaken, up to this point in the playoffs in 1-goal games. Outshot by 10. They win by 1 in overtime. Denis Gurianov wins it and sends the Stars to the Cup Final. Now, again, you talk about the journey for Dallas. Of course, we're going to talk a lot about them in this video. I do want to say for Vegas, though, how incredibly disappointing this is. Now, you look at this team, and here's the thing. Vegas has kind of made themselves into a villain already, and I can't help, I don't really know what it is necessarily that's any different than any other team. I think they see a lot of hate from the West, and I think it's perhaps maybe there was some trash talk towards Chicago fans and LA fans about, hey, it's our time now. That's what I gather, at least from seeing so many Kings fans and so many Hawks fans dancing on the graves of Golden Knights fans right now. San Jose, I completely understand the hatred, but a lot of celebrating too from Anaheim. So I do wonder if from some fan bases, it's just like, oh, this is getting what they deserve. It's, if it's from other fan bases, maybe like Coyotes fans who see this team and it's just envy that they've been so competitive for the 4 years that they've been around now at this stage, or the 3 years that they've been around now at this stage, or if it's just, the style of on-ice play and the fact that, the players themselves try to play the mental head game of trash talking. Obviously, Ryan Reeves is a huge part of that. But at the end of the day, for Vegas, I mean, the goal scoring just wasn't there. They certainly had the chances. I've seen a lot of complaints about the Peter DeBoer style coaching with just, hey, get shots on goal, and they don't necessarily have to be quality. But Lord knows there were plenty of hit posts in that series for the Golden Knights. You could talk about the Golden Knights power play, not exactly adapting, just trying the same thing over and over, and perhaps that's a big part of what it was. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't hate the Golden Knights. I like the Golden Knights a lot, to be honest. I mean, again, I've talked about this a lot when you consider, I guess, the common complaint of, well, they shouldn't be this good. And it's like, well, what do you want? Nobody's going to buy into the league so that they can suffer for 15 years like Preds fans, Blue Jackets fans. No one's going to do that. So obviously you needed to give the team a chance to be good, and it's well documented how much other GMs who wanted to get out of their own mess helped this team be better, particularly, of course, the Florida Panthers. Look at that second line. But you look at this team, I mean, you lose in the Cup final, which, again, it was so tough. Do you root for them or do you root for Ovi? They lose last year in the playoffs, and now they get to the conference final, and they lose again. And all 3 seasons had the feeling of, yeah, this was, of course, a team that could go all the way. At the end of the day, they fall short. Now, they are still going to be competitive here for the next few seasons. It's pretty much impossible that they won't be. I mean, you look here, Paul Stastny's deal is going to be expiring at the end of next year. Cap friendly has already changed over to 2020 and 2021. So the big players to re-sign right now are Nick Cousins, Chandler Stevenson, both older RFAs. Tomas Nosek, you have Marilyn Englund, and then Robin Lehner. So that's obviously the big thing, right? Do they move Marc-Andre Fleury to sign Robin Lehner? That appears as though it'll be the case. I mean, right now it's showing them $5 million in cap space. I'm not sure how those numbers are going to change, but they're still set up well. They have their first-round pick. There's a lot that the Vegas Golden Knights could do to still be competitive, and then I don't know if people have forgotten, but their system's pretty decent. Obviously, Peyton Krebs the one leading the way amongst that, and defensively, I mean, I'm always going to fanboy for Nick Hague, but they have a couple other guys here, Korshak, Corcoran, who knows. They are set up to still be extremely competitive for the next few years. But you talk about this Vegas lineup, and yeah, it's going to be incredibly disappointing for them to have not gotten over the hump because you only have so many shots at making it. And it is true, for as long as the Golden Knights don't make it back to the Cup final, it is going to be extremely painful. I mean, say what you want about long-suffering franchises, right? But at the end of the day, there's a different, there's different ways to suffer as a sports fan. There's getting extremely close and never getting back there again, or just sucking for 50 years, no offense, like the Toronto Maple Leafs have. I don't really think there's an argument. I know I'm a Bruins fan taking a shot at Leafs fan, but I'm saying, aside from, getting close in 2002 before losing to the Hurricanes in the conference final, they haven't been close since. And it's not like they did, 93 as well, I guess. But you think about how spread out that is. The point being, there are different levels of suffering, and I don't think it's necessarily fair to say, like, oh, Golden Knights fans haven't suffered. There have been some rough losses for this team. Cup final loss. Think of how they lost to the Sharks, and now you lose here to Dallas. We'll see what the mental effect is for the core of this team moving forward. And looking here, now the playoff stats are going to be on the right-hand side. And here we'll actually move in. And again, shout out to some of the best sites in the world: Hockey Reference, Daily Face-Off, Elite Prospects, and Cap Friendly. But you look here, I mean, Max Pacioretty just 8 points in 16 games, snake-bitten at times. That's not good enough. I mean, Mark Stone, Jesus, he's elite. I mean, it's not just obviously the point production, it's the defensive play. Smith was pretty good. You needed more out of Marchessault, and you needed more out of William Karlsson. I mean, Shea Theodore, Jesus Christ. You want to talk about a Conn Smythe winner if they were to make it. It's absolutely ridiculous. He led that team in points. It's insane. But, Alex Tuch, as we just saw on their third line, at least in that final game, outproducing William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault, and Paul Stastny. That cannot happen. Nate Schmidt outproducing Max Pacioretty, who had the same point total as Alec Martinez. And Alec Martinez, not exactly known as this big-time point producer. You look, no points in his last 5 playoff games there with the Kings. I guess he was pretty good in the year that they won it, and he scored the cup-winning goal But still, you kind of get the point. I mean, the first year the Kings won the Cup, he had 3 points in 20 games. You know, Martinez is not this overwhelming offensive force from the blue line. So certainly some issues there where secondary scoring wasn't quite where they needed it to be, and the high-end guys let him down a little bit. So for Vegas, still think they're set up pretty well. At the end of the day, they're out. Dallas moves on, and I want to talk about the Stars now because, again, this is their time to shine. And simply put, for the Stars, I mean, for the longest time, the narrative was this. And you look this year at the regular season scoring. For the longest time, the narrative was, can they just get, that extra bit of defense that they need? Or actually, can they get the offensive scoring touch that they needed to maybe shore up that defense a little bit more? Because if you look here in terms of goals for Dallas, third bottom this season, but second from the top in terms of having a great defense and great goaltending. And if you go back through these last couple of seasons, that's pretty much the story. You look here, Dallas, bottom 4 in goal scoring, but in terms of goals against, second fewest goals allowed last year as well. That has been the trend, is can Dallas get that secondary scoring? And now you look at the team that they iced for that 5th game, and all in all, I mean, the forward core might be the best it's ever been in terms of well-roundedness for the Stars. Defensively, though, I mean, you talk about the continued emergence of Esa Lindell and John Klingberg, but really it was Miro Heiskanen developing into the defenseman that he has been. Because let's be honest, I mean, I think Hanley was a Yote and a Hab. Joel Hanley's not exactly the guy you'd think would be leading the way as a defensive stalwart. I think it has certainly been elite goaltending. And, that coaching change as well. You talk about Jim Montgomery leaving this team last December. They bring in Rick Bowness. And all of a sudden now, this team that was always decent defensively has really doubled down on that defensive style. You have that choice when it comes to how you set up as a team. It's like, okay, we can be a well-rounded defensive team, but then we add in the forwards, we're good to go. And then you see some teams that double down on that defensive style. And of course, there is another one of those teams in the Eastern Conference Final. But you look at the addition of Rick Bowness here, the, of course, interim head coach at this point. I'm sure he'll be back with the Stars next year. But 65 years old, has one hell of a history. I have a soft spot for him. He coached the Maine Mariners at one point. Of course, that organization is the... if I'm not mistaken, the Providence Bruins now. But, I mean, Rick Bowness was a head coach in the NHL before I was born. That's a hell of a lot of experience. It is. And, sure, hasn't been a head coach since before the lockout, and was an assistant and associate coach for so many years. But it's just something about that level of experience, that defensive first style, for him to be able to look at that team and just be like, well, screw it, we're going to play this way. And the fact is, the team is bought in. You can look at some clips. I can't show them here. The video will probably get pulled. But you can look at some clips in regards to watching the team celebrate, locker room footage. This team has bought in. Rick Bowness has been able to get this team to fully commit to one another and buy in, and it's worked. And at the end of the day, how far will that get them? I'm not entirely sure, right? I'm not entirely sure. Because you look at this. Number one, Miro Heiskanen, Jesus Christ. Everything I said about Shea Theodore applies to him. It's been an interesting situation for the Stars here. And actually, here, we'll go back to the lines. Because you look at that top line, and someone sticks out like a sore thumb. And that is Tyler Seguin. Because you look here, Jamie Benn has stepped his game up. I genuinely think Jamie Benn is just sick and tired of goddamn losing. Jamie Benn wants to win. And it's crazy to me. But Jamie Benn is 31 years old. 5th round pick in 2007. Jamie Benn, it feels like he's been around forever. Really, it is. I can't believe he's that old at this point. But he's been around since the 09-10 season. And you look back, at certain past playoff performances, he's pretty much always been a playoff performer. It's just he hasn't gotten a chance. There's been a lot of time. You look at this little patchwork here from 2010 to 2018. It had to be a very frustrating time for Jamie Benn, and you could tell he's trying to make the most of this situation. But like I talked about here, for the Golden Knights. As much as you need those top players to step up, you need that bottom six contribution, or just really an overall contribution in general. I think Denis Gurianov has had the quietest postseason, because who the hell's talking about Denis Gurianov? He scored the winner last night, and maybe that will get him a little bit more attention, but he's kind of been out of the spotlight despite being directly in the spotlight. 17 points in 21 games. He has been incredible. John Klingberg again. And then you get to the huge addition that everyone thought was a mistake because of how much he is being paid. But Joe Pavelski is making it back to the Stanley Cup final, which I'm very happy about because Joe Pavelski is a hell of a player. But he gets a $7 million contract. This is Joe Pavelski's contract right here. It is insane. 3 years at $7 million. It's goddamn ridiculous. But he's been worth every penny for what he has brought to that team. So overall, what has been the key to the Stars' success? Buying in with this new head coach. I think for Sagan and Ben, it's been, oh, they're fucking horseshit. I think that team's been using that for motivation as well. And I think just eventually teams, when you start to doubt them a lot, we saw it with the Nashville Predators, where it's like, okay, when is this team shit or get off the pot? Are you going to hit that potential or not? And I think this team finally just said, no, we're hitting this potential. Screw this. We're tired of losing. Again, you factored that in with the coaching changes. You factored that in with some of the additions on this team, whether it be Corey Perry or Joe Pavelski. You factor in someone like Yoel Kiviranta, who I'll talk about more in a second. And then, of course, elite-level goaltending. It's just all come together for the Stars right now. So when I look at them, and these point totals, again, point totals aren't everything, but when I look at this team, and I say, okay, whether or not it's the Islanders or the Lightning, what is it going to take for this team to win the Stanley Cup for the first time in 21 years? And I think it's rather obvious. Number one, you need Miro Heiskanen to continue to be elite. Everything has to, for the most part, continue to be the way it's been. Jamie Benn has to continue to do this well. Gurianov has to continue to perform that well. Klingberg has to be the same. Pavelski has to be the same. Radulov has been extremely clutch. That level can't drop. Rupe Hintz has been great. Tyler Seguin has one more point than Jamie Alexiak. That is, if not key number one, at least the first point I'm going to bring up. I think it's a 1A and a 1B in terms of what the keys to the Stars' success has to be in this Cup final. Tyler Seguin has to do better than that. If Tyler Seguin cannot step up his game, the Stars are in a lot of trouble. I know we've been saying that all postseason, but this is crunch time, right? And you look at Seguin in the past. The year the Bruins won the Cup when he was a rookie, pretty damn good. The 2011-12 season, a little bit disappointing. Like 3-7's not too bad, but already the pressure was starting to get up there. But here was the issue. When the Bruins lost to the Blackhawks in 2013, he only had 8 points in 22 games. So right here, you kind of give him the benefit of the doubt, being like, okay, they got bounced in the first round by Washington. He could have been a little bit better, but it's fine. He had 1 goal in 22 games. And then he was a star next year, where again, pretty well, 3 points in 6 games. You know, you missed the playoffs, only played 1 game, 2 missed playoffs, did pretty damn well last year in the 13 before they got bounced by St. Louis in the second round. But now, I mean, this is it. Like, Tyler Seguin has to step up for the Stars if they are going to get the job done. Good defensive play simply isn't enough. He has 1 more point and 2 less goals than Jamie frickin' Alexiak, who, by the way, man, the Penguins. Corey Perry, I mean, say what you want. He's at least an agitating force, right? I mean, I don't know. It's a weird Corey Perry situation. I think, obviously, too, the big thing here, Matthias Janmark has 34 penalty minutes. What the hell's going on there? Yoel Kiviranta. It's an interesting one. By the way, Jason Dickinson, Jesus Christ. Bottom 6 needs to step up. Tyler Seguin especially needs to step up while everyone else is continuing to do as good, if not better, than they already have. The key for me here, another key here is Yoel Kiviranta, who obviously has been phenomenal. Now, we weren't exactly memeing him, but NHL 16, we had Yoel Kiviranta, totally Spanish, and because of the way I pronounced the name, it didn't make any sense. So this guy's been on my radar here for a long time. He's, if you've been, a supporter of this channel, you obviously are well familiar with this name. I'm not going to sit here and say I knew he was going to be good or was capable of this. I'm just saying it's fucking awesome. It is. It's absolutely tremendous. And we'll see. I mean, 5 points in 8 games, scored the tying goal that sent it to overtime in Game 5. Like, that is, again, what it's going to take for the Stars. You need Seguin to step up. You need the bottom six to contribute a little bit more. You know, Cogliano's been in and out of the lineup, but Dickinson, Como, Perry, Hintz, like, these guys need to step up a little bit more. Janmark, stay the hell out of the box. I don't know what's up with that. It's about, you know, stepping up your game, because at the end of the day, you're not going to survive in these one goal game situations. You're just not going to. Unless something crazy happens. But the feeling is, and more often than not this happens, sometimes it doesn't. I hate to bring up the Bruins again, but sometimes someone Tim Thomases it. And for some reason, it's like, holy hell, the levee doesn't break. On the flip side, someone can J.S. Jaguar it and still be amazing, and sometimes it's just not enough because the team didn't pick up the slack. So my fear for Anton Khudobin is, you know, he's either going to Tim Thomas this and his play is not going to fall off and his teammates are going to step up and they're going to win the cup, or he's going to Jaguar this and still not fall off, but the team will, just not make it, or he might fall off in general and the wheels could fall off. I mean, the bottom line is Anton Khudobin with that .920 save percentage is not exactly Jaguar level, but considering Ben Bishop, who's likely hurt, has done that, you can see what I mean here. Like, a .920 isn't invincible, to say the least. This is a team that needs to step up those offensive contributions, because that is not a bulletproof save percentage at this stage of the game. So, again, for me, you look at this team, they're still set up well in the future. I mean, Perry's deal is up, but, I mean, they got to re-sign Goryanov, Hintz. They're going to be well set up for the future, but going to have significantly less cap space. I mean, who knows what's going to happen to Anton Khudobin. The Stars are in a situation where you do not want to waste this opportunity. So, again, for Ben and Radulov, keep doing what you're doing. Tyler Seguin, step your game up if you're going to win a cup here. Janmark, I mean, stay out of the box, but that second line's been fantastic for the most part. If Corey Perry can step his game up a bit, that third line's pretty solid. And again, the fourth line especially needs to step up for Dallas. I love what their top four are doing. I'd be concerned about that third pairing. And then again, the goaltending has been amazing. Obviously, we'll see if Radek Faksa ends up back in the lineup. He didn't play in the last game. But all in all, for the Dallas Stars, can they win? Yes. And it seems obvious to say, but you need that goaltending to hold on. It's unlikely to do so. So what's more likely? Tyler Seguin steps up, your bottom six steps up, and everyone else continues at the very least to be at the same pace they were at. If you go against the Islanders, and this is kind of the elephant in the room, people are talking about two extremely defensive teams going head-to-head and how boring it's going to be. I don't believe that. I think it makes it much more interesting, because at the end of the day, I think it's going to bring out the offensive touch in the other. I don't think both teams just stay at a stalemate and we get 12 shots in a game for both, combined. I don't think that's going to happen. But obviously, if it's Tampa, I mean, yeah, Calgary can score goals. Colorado can definitely score goals. And healthy Vegas can score goals. You're going to try to play this win-by-one strategy against this Tampa Bay Lightning team? I mean, I don't believe that's going to work, personally. It might. I don't believe that's going to work. So at the end of the day, again, for Dallas, they need a lot of things to go right for them, but they're here. They're 4 wins away from the Stanley Cup. Now it's just a matter of who they're going to play. And once we know who they're going to play, I'll break down what happened in that final, talk about what that team needs to do to win. But again, for the Dallas Stars, what a season. What a turnaround. Way to finally make the most of your potential. And the question is, will Jamie Benn and company be raising the Stanley Cup, much like Darian Hatcher and company, Mike Modano as well? Wasn't the captain of the team, it was Darian Hatcher. Will they be raising the Stanley Cup? Just like the Stars did in 1999. Let me know what you think of the Stars season so far. What went wrong for the Vegas Golden Knights? Will the Stars win? Maybe it does depend on who they meet in the final. Who do you think is going to make it there, the Islanders or the Lightning? A lot of questions, a lot of things to talk about down in those beautiful comments below. I will see you all in the next one, which again will be potentially tomorrow, because Tampa can end this series tonight and we can see the Lightning back in the final for the first time in 5 years, where maybe if Tyler Johnson has a broken wrist and can't shoot the puck, they might play somebody else. Who's to say? Could happen.